Okay. And the mic's on. I got a little room today. I can spread out. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Good to see everybody. We will now, oh, I have to hold off a sec. Valerie's not here. John? I have to bring you in from the bullpen. Okay. I just remembered that Mrs. Guzman is not here, and it's her rotation. So we're going to start this afternoon with the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by Councilman John Carroll. Please rise.
Pray. Dear Lord, as we come before you today, we do humbly ask that you bless this meeting as we go about the business of the city, and that we'll do the best, Lord, that we can for the citizens of not only Hardeeville, but the citizens of Jasper County as well. And Lord, we do want to thank you for all the other blessings you give us. And even though Memorial Day is past, Lord, we want to remember all those that gave the sacrifices that they did. All these things we ask in your most precious name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our servicemen and women who have fought and died for our freedom, and for all those who continue to serve around the world, protecting our way of life. Thank you. Okay, I will now call the meeting to order. This is the City of Hardeeville regular City Council meeting and public hearing, 205 Main Street, Hardeeville, South Carolina, June 1, 2023 at 3 p.m. Next order of business is to approve the agenda, and I'd like to ask the council if in the motion to approve the agenda that we move up under new business item number F to be included with the Don Ryan Center update, so that Mr. Nelms doesn't have to sit around, and even though it is going to be a riveting council meeting, you won't have to stay the whole time. You could watch it later on, before you go to bed. Okay, so if that's okay with the council, please give a motion that reflects that change in the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second to move up new business item number F to public presentations item B. Any further comments or questions by council? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Now we go to public comments. Do we have anyone signed up? No. Okay. We'll go into public presentations. And the first one is the introduction of Hardeeville Police Officer Robert. There is no way am I going to be able to pronounce that. So, Robert, you'll have to come in and educate us on how to say your last name. Good afternoon.
Staff, good afternoon. I'm absolutely humbled to be standing before you. Chief Woodward has given me the opportunity to introduce one of Hardeeville Police Department's finest that is starting with us. This is Mr. Robert Anguiano. He is 24 years old, was born and raised right here in the city of Hardeeville. He graduated from the Ridgeland Hardeeville High School. Just like myself, he's aspired to be a law enforcement officer since he was a little kid. He considers that law enforcement will provide him the best ability to show his honesty, integrity, and his strong ethics. Long-term goal is to continue to travel through the ranks of the Hardeeville Police Department and serve the community that he grew up in. We've currently got him enrolled at the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy at this time. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Robert Anguiano.
Mr. Anguiano, was that good? Forgive me, it's not one of my strong points, but welcome.
Thank you. It's really nice to get started. Well, I can't wait to get started, bro. Working for Hardeeville. It's been my, like he said, it's been always been my dream ever since I was little. And I can't wait to serve the community.
It is so, I can't tell you how refreshing it is to see a hometown person want to serve his community he grew up in. It really does my heart good. So thank you so much. Council, anybody like to?
Welcome.
Welcome. Good to have you.
Good to have a good local
uh,
man growing up here and coming. That's right, Sam?
Absolutely.
You're all alive, so.
Yeah.
Best wishes for a long and prosperous career with us. Thank you. Next, we have an update from the Don Ryan Center for Innovation, and Mr. David Nellums, the director, is here with us today. David, welcome.
Sure, Mayor and Council, thank you for having me here again. So pleasure to be with you again. We were here last in December. You may notice that Kristen Ling, who's listed on this presentation, is not beside me today. Mayor and Council may remember that when we presented in December, one of Kristen's goals was to do more public speaking, which she did, and I told her, hey, you're going to do the presentation to Mayor and Council in June. She got sick this morning. Well, she was actually really sick. She was looking forward to it. So I'm going to pitch hit for her and give you a brief update of what we've been doing since we spoke to you in December and with our partnership. So since December, we are really about to finish our second year of partnership. And we have really made a lot more momentum this year due to the action agenda and some of the things we've done specifically after we learned what was working and what wasn't working in year number one. We've added some more companies to the startup program. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. One of those companies, Wheeler Trucking, that's based in Hardeeville, has already added 5 jobs, 5 drivers, and they have multiple trips and loads up from Hardeeville and from the regional area up to Atlanta and anywhere to the southeast on a weekly basis. And we've continued our community engagement and collaboration. We have this business series I'll talk about in a moment and the events we're doing at Margaritaville. But the bottom line, if you had to look at one slide, this is it. Things are going really well. We've gotten more engagement with companies in Hardeeville, and we're working really well with the town manager and staff at the city. So we have 4 companies now. The Lap App company just graduated a little while ago, but Wheeler Trucking is a husband and wife team. Amita Irving, we met her at one of the business startup events, and she joined probably about 8 months ago, and it's a husband and wife team, and they run a trucking company out of Hardeeville and all over the southeast. Capital Chiropractic and the Hardy Greens, I'll talk about those in just a moment. So Capital Chiropractic, we actually met Dr. Allen here at the last city council meeting we presented. After we presented, he followed us out in the hall and said, please, I need your help. Please help me figure out how to do this because I know how to be a doctor. I don't know how to be a business person. So we've been working with him for quite a while. This is a quote here. I'm not going to read it to you, but you know, he's found us very helpful, and we've made connections for him, told him where to focus, again, because people that are taught medicine are rarely taught how to do business. It's all their brain can really hold sometimes. My son's a marvelous doctor himself, but he has no idea about how to run a business, so I understand that a little bit. But it's helped them understand about being a business owner. He's right down the street, on this street, just about probably half a mile or a mile down the road. And he's been involved in a lot of community events, and he's really doing well. He and his wife are growing a nice practice here for Hardeeville and the community. So that's one of our startup companies, Capital Chiropractic. The next one is Hardy Greens, you may be aware of. They're actually on the next street over. This is the Hostra family, Jennifer and Rule and their sons, and they purchased a church over on Randall Street just next door. One of the neat things about the name of this company is that the name of your city is in the name of the company. They are doing what's called vertical gardening, not hydroponic gardening, but vertical gardening, where you're still planting plants in dirt, but they're actually on like a trellis conveyor system in this church where they're going to build it. They've already invested $1.3 million, and they anticipate creating 58 jobs in the city over the next few years. So that is an excellent statistic. Again, they don't know that much about bringing a product to market. They know this gardening and the vertical gardening industry, but not about how to actually get that product to market. And they even got a commendation from the Secretary of Commerce up in Columbia. And so a lot of support, and they're still in the process of getting that church ready to start their process and their business, but a lot of great potential, and they're starting with us next week for their kickoff meeting. But another example of a company that people that have a great idea but don't know quite how to go about it, and by working with us, we can give them the knowledge and fill the gaps in their knowledge they need. So that's Hardy Greens. And my remote just died because it's beeping. There we go. Let's talk a little bit about some of the marketing. So as you may remember, we do, as part of our partnership, we do have a marketing plan that we work with Juan and Elizabeth and Jessica on a weekly or almost weekly basis, if not more than that. We share posts together. Most of these posts are created by Kristen, and they're put on our Facebook and social pages, and then they're cross-posted on the Hardeeville social events as well. So all this marketing, whether it's social, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, these business events, which I'll talk about in a moment, are all working really well for us, and we're getting a good little ROI when we do decide to do any type of social media posting. We're spending small amounts of money, but we're getting a great return on investment for that engagement of people that are becoming aware of who we are, what we do, and how to get involved. A little bit more of the events. Kind of hard to see there, but you see the agenda from these, what we call our business series. This was something that when we started year 2 of our program, we wanted to take a step back and just do some basic education about basic business matters. So we just called them Business 101, 201, 301. And it was always going to be a combination of the Don Ryan Center would have kind of the keynote speech, but we'd have other organizations as well, such as the Jasper Chamber of Commerce, such as Blackwoody, such as a local accountant, tax accountant, things like that, to bring this information to your citizenry about how to start a business, about how to figure out how to get things going. And because a lot of people have great ideas, they just don't know where to start. So this is a great way to just show up and see what's going on, meet some other people. For some reason, Kristen always has a picture of me eating up there. At least I'm eating with the mayor up there on the right-hand side. But these have gone very well, and we'll continue to do these. We'll get more in depth in the subject matter, but we'll always still go back to the 101, 201 kind of basic level if we continue this going into year 3, which we hope we will. So a lot of events that are working really, really well, and this was something we started in year 2 that we will continue. Just a little snapshot of some eye candy of the different social media things we've done. Kristen's created all these and worked with your team, and all Hardeeville centric. So we have a Bluffton newsletter, but we also have a Hardeeville specific newsletter that goes out. And of course, we have Hardeeville specific posts as they relate to events and other things. So that's building awareness and helping trial when people get into our program to learn about what we're doing. So what's next? As you know, on the agenda, apparently right after me, thank you, Mayor and Council, is the option to continue this partnership. It's a 1-year term that will renew every year unless you cancel it in advance. That gives us both some ability to know how we're going to do our budgeting for the town of Bluffton and for the city of Hardeeville. There's no increase in price. There's no reduction in our services. And once again, if council and mayor decide to renew this, the next thing we'll do is meet with meet with city staff, and based on their staff, their wishes and your wishes, come up with the new action agenda. What are the things we're going to do in year number 3? And take what we've learned in those last couple of years and add to what we're going to do next. Like I said, we're going to continue the business series. One of the things I wanted to do is, I realized when Juan and Elizabeth were at the last one, they were recording them, and I want to record all of these and put them online, so if people can't attend in person, they can at least watch it on demand after the fact. Because, based on everybody's schedule, not everybody can show up at the rec center at 5 or 5:30 on a Wednesday. So we want to have that content for them whenever they need it to get them involved. So we've enjoyed working with the staff and everyone for the last year. We hope we will continue it. And it's really starting to, just like the Don Ryan Center in Bluffton took a little while to get going, it's really starting to pick up. And we went from 0 companies to 1 company to 4 companies. And we think we can get that up to 6 or 7 in the next year or so. So with that, any questions?
Council, let's start with Steve or anybody. This is any questions to Mr. Nelms?
No, I was present for the presentation you made in Hardeeville, your folks made. I was very impressed with that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. White?
No.
Okay, so we now have a resolution in new business that we moved up to this point in the agenda. And this is a resolution of the City of Hardeeville, South Carolina City Council authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year agreement to continue an economic development partnership with the Don Ryan Center for Innovation. This is Resolution 2023-6-1F. We're gonna, I know that there are some legal questions that have been addressed to me by council, so I'm going to turn this first over to Mayor Pro Tem White to take up the next phase of the conversation.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some questions, and I'd like to make a motion that we table this discussion for 1 month for additional investigation in terms, not investigation in a negative sense, but to get more information. And I'm not comfortable at this point, and so I'd like to make a motion that we do that, reference the 2023-6-1F ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion here, and I just want to clarify for Mr. Nelms and for the rest of the council. I've had a couple of questions, Mr. Zimbor, that regarding the contract that I think some members of council would like to discuss in executive session before we ask our questions in public. So I think, is that correct, Mr. White?
Yes, that's right. It's, thank you for saying it much more effectively than I did.
So just so everybody understands, I think there's just some clarifications. And since it is a contractual arrangement, I think the council wants to sit with the attorney and go over things in executive session before we go to our public questions. And of course, typically, as we all know, if we get the advice that the council's seeking, then that will become part of the public conversation at that time. So Mr. White is proposing that we table this for 1 month and that we have in 2 weeks an executive session so that we can discuss this contractual arrangement with our attorney. So that's the motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor, I have a point of order.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So your next meetings, we need you to pick a date for the motion. July 6th is the next, a month out, and then you have June 15th meeting. That's not a month out, but you could do the executive session then. Then you have July 6th and July 20th are your next meeting.
So, Mr. White, in your motion, we need a date specific. We could have the executive session and then the vote later that evening, or we can have executive session on the 15th and then come back on July 6th. It's, please clarify clarify the motion that you'd like to see.
Yes, to clarify, the June mid-month meeting with final vote in July 6th. I think you said, Harry, is that correct?
That's the next, the
Yeah,
first
June.
meeting in July is the 6th?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Month and 5 days, that's fine. And the 15th is the June meeting, is that correct?
June 15th, yes.
Yes,
that's
so
your
it'd
meeting
be
in
June 15th and the follow-up July 6th. Thank you. Appreciate your help there.
Okay, so the motion is to have an executive session on June 15th and bring this resolution back for vote on July the 6th. So that's the motion. Do we have everything, Madam Attorney? Okay, that's the motion. Now, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are there any further comments or questions by council? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Neil, is there something that you need to say?
No, no, sir. It was, I was just going to present, bring it to your all's attention. So that's all I had to say.
Oh, okay, okay.
I was
This
just
is,
representing the.
I think this is just something that, some members would like to discuss, and then we'll make a decision. Mr. Nellums, I'm sorry you have to wait, but we'll go through this, and at least you didn't have to sit here for 2 hours before we came to that
Thank you,
conclusion.
Mayor. In the interim, of course, I'm sure we'll be communicating with Neil and Michael, so anything we
Yeah, so there's any, we're going to digest the presentation that you gave us. Any other stats or information in the interim that you want to share with us?
Okay.
But I think this was pretty thorough examination of what we're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next, we have one last presentation. This is the Jasper County Temporary Moratorium on the U-Haul Broad River Planning Area. Mr. Zimbor, please, or
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir. I just briefly, I think right before the last council meeting, I think that's correct, we did receive a email from Mr. Fulgham regarding the county's action to approve first reading of a 9-month moratorium in their specific area, and they were requesting both the city of Hardeeville and the town of Ridgeland to not accept any annexations during this 9-month moratorium area. So the council did request that the issue to be presented with any direction on our correspondence back to Jasper County after discussion. So I've asked Mr. Davis to do a brief presentation on what we understand is the county's moratorium request.
That's correct. Thank you. And it'll be even briefer since Mr. Simboard just said about half the things I was going to tell you. So, but yeah, we wanted to give you just kind of an idea of how this impacts Hardeeville. I think the best way is to go to the map. And just I did this map very, very quickly because I only had this kind of handout from the county to go by, so I had to draw that by hand. But I think it illustrates the point. So this map, the area kind of outlined in purple, if you can see that, that is our adopted growth boundary, which I think 3 of you were here 2 years ago, and we adopted that. And then within that, if you can see, there's like the shaded area, and those are the areas that are already in the city limits. And then you have this area here, which is the county's moratorium area, the U-Haul Broad River Planning Area, and then immediately to the north of Hardeeville and then to the west is what they refer to as the Oakity Club. They own vast thousands and thousands of acres of land. So we had basically, this really has no impact on the city because we have said we don't intend to annex further to the north nor to the west because of the Oakity Club. So we certainly don't have no problem with the county doing what they're doing. They just want to kind of take a pause. I think this is born out of a lot of development pressures primarily around the Ridgeland area out in the unincorporated Jasper County, and it's just an opportunity for them to kind of reset, make sure they're ready for the growth and development, and update their comprehensive plan. Particularly, their ordinance said their future land use element. That's really all I have. If you have any specific questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, let's start the questioning with Mr. Carroll.
No, you answered my question, Matt, that I had. I had one, you answered that question. So I guess basically what this is, basically what this is it's a formality that we just address what the county wants us to answer, I guess, kind of acknowledge that they've sent us and we just,
Right, we acknowledge it, and again, we have again, this is
no interest in that.
no interest in that, and no one's expressed interest to us as well. And
Okay.
again, it's outside of what we've identified as our growth boundaries.
All right.
So.
Mr. White?
Matt, as I listened to you talk, and I was up in Ridgeland a couple weeks ago, and I get a sentiment that people just want things to slow down a little bit so they can catch up. Sometimes they don't have the benefit of a lot of the staff work that we have, which we're very lucky in that. And so that's what I sense, not reading more in it, that let's slow down. We got to catch up on some of that. You've been in this a lot longer. You have any additional insights?
No, sir, I think that's pretty much it. I think a lot of stuff's happening. They have a somewhat limited staff, and they just want to make sure that they're kind of ahead of the curve as best they can be.
Yeah, that was my read too. Thank you, Matt.
Mr. Mearsman?
What do they want from us? Do they just want a letter or just a vote of approval or just a non-committal to this?
I don't think it needs to be a formal action by you. I think the city manager could send a letter and just acknowledge the receipt of their requests, and we can even convey that, we have no intention of pursuing any annexations in their moratorium area.
Okay, I was up in that area a week ago. There's a lot of signs, stop all development.
Yeah.
They're very vocal about what
And
they
where
want
those
to do
are
right now.
pretty far outside of our city limits
Okay,
already.
all right, thank you.
Matt, from my understanding, and having been at one of the meetings when that group presented to county council, the county is due for a update to their comprehensive plan. And they the purpose of this moratorium is let's finish the comprehensive plan before any further development takes place. So this is not necessarily a stop as much as a pause. And after the moratorium is over, they can go back and do whatever they want. That's my understanding. Is that the same as yours?
That's my read on it. I mean, not having any more really information than you do, but yes, that's exactly. I think it's just,
Okay.
It's kind of a lot's coming, and they just want to make sure that they're ready for it.
And also from the presentation up at the county council meeting, that what I saw, and from that map, a lot of that, I'm going to mispronounce this, Mr. Carroll, U-Haul area is a lot of environmentally sensitive marsh area, and so I applaud not developing those environmentally sensitive areas. I also, from my understanding, is that by asking Ridgeland and Hardeeville to not annex anything in this border, it keeps developers in that border zone from zone shopping.
That's the
Okay,
point. I never thought about it.
they don't, they want it paused. And if these developers, if somebody on that border came and wanted to develop, and they could come and say, hey, City of Hardeeville, take it, the county's not going to do it, so maybe they will. And that's classic zone shopping, and they're trying to prevent that, and I applaud that as well. I would ask, I think that we are entitled to ask something of them as well. I personally can support what they've asked us not to annex in that zone, but I would ask them to put a pause on the project I-95, which was changed from rural preservation to industrial over the objections of the city council of Hardeeville. I would also ask them, just recently, right prior to this, that they approved an extension of 350 apartment units right smack dab on 278 also objected to by the city council of Hardeeville. I won't even go into South Point because that's another story. But there's two things that the city council of Hardeeville has tried to stop development in areas that are sensitive. A, it was rural preservation for a reason, and B, the traffic on 278 that those apartments will impact. So I would like to ask, me personally, that they also put a moratorium on those two developments until they complete this comprehensive plan, because they're going to have a tremendous amount of impact on the city of Hardeeville and the county of Jasper County. So I don't know if anybody in the council feels the same way as I do, but if we're going to support a moratorium, let's stop some of those things that the city has objected to before they get started. I'm not even sure we can do it.
I agree, Mr. Mayor, and I think this should be put into a formal request by the city council to slow this down. I think the zoning shopping has to stop, and what the mayor has mentioned are very blatant, and I do mean that, very blatant zone shopping. And it's not economically viable for the residents of Hardeeville, and I think it's an even request.
Mr. Carroll or Mr. White, do you have any thoughts on it?
I concur, and I think that what Steve has outlined is the reality in both situations is, from our perspective, the need to slow down and take a breath, and those things can be overwhelming. And so I think Steve raises an excellent point. And it's not so much a tit-by-tat situation, but more we're in the same boat. And that's the basis of fellowship, in the sense both of us have some of the same issues. That's my take on what the mayor has said.
Thank you, Mr. White. I'm glad you said that, because I'm not intending this as a one-up. I think if we as a region, this council has shown in the last couple of years that we are concerned about growth and how it's impacting traffic and the environment. And this should be part of it. It shouldn't be, okay, we're going to exclude that. It should all be part of what the county's trying to accomplish. So what I would suggest, Mr. Zimbor, is that, based on Mr. Musman's suggestion, that we write up a formal letter outlining our request and our support for their moratorium and our request to add to it, and then we can discuss and approve it at the next council meeting. Does that make sense, council?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Zimbor, would you write up a letter and present it at the next meeting?
Do.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, next, we have the presentation and approval of minutes from the May 18th, 2023 regular city council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes to the minutes of May 18th?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the May 18th, 2023 regular city council meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by council? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Next, we go on to new business, and we have some exciting things for this evening. First of all, we have the first reading of an ordinance to establish an annual budget. Mr. Boyles is already walking the aisle.
Waited as long as I could, sir.
Which includes revenues and expenditures for the city of Hardeeville for the fiscal year 2023-24, and to set the millage rate, to establish a 5-year capital improvement plan, and to authorize a cost of living adjustment for city employees. This is the first reading of 2 ordinances, 2023-6-1A. Mr. Boyle.
Anything, you want me to jump in?
Yeah, I'll start for just quickly, Mr. Mayor. So just a couple things. This is obviously, the public knows this is our annual budget process. I think this is my 9th budget that I've prepared and proposed, collaboratively and collectively with the city council and the staff, and I think we're actually getting the hang of it now. So it's very transparent, obviously, we try to be, and it's very descriptive, and it really sets out, I think, the city's proposed expenditure plan, kind of our goals and objectives and our mission and what we're trying to accomplish. So I think the document is getting better. And I think last year, and I've said this before, which is a great thing, the city is a Triple Crown winner from GFOA. We won all 3 awards, the Annual Budget Award, the PAFR, and the, and I'm sorry?
The ACFRA.
And okay, all these crazy acronyms, but for a city of our size, I think it's almost unheard of, because it takes a lot of effort and to meet all the requirements. So we are doing the right thing, and we are moving forward with a very quality document. So this is our proposed budget. It is very comprehensive. Included in the budget is some proposed public borrowing, which we will bring back to the council in the next few months for some capital improvements plan. The city is in a very, as the council knows, is in a very strong financial position, increasing our financial position every year based upon, some very desirable growth and development. And with the first budget amendment for fiscal year '24, I know the council, we talked about as part of the budget preparation process, considering increasing the budget stabilization amount percentage. So we will bring that back based on fiscal year '23 year end and where we're at. So we're recommending adoption. Just quickly, here's the schedule up on the screen. You can see we're almost to the end of the race. So we are presenting the council for first reading. We hope the council favorably approves it. We move on to second reading, and then July 1st is we kick off fiscal year '24. Mr. Boyle.
Okay. On one slide here, we're showing the changes that were requested following the second budget workshop on May 9th of '23. I can read through them. I'm assuming everybody has already read them. Basically, we had originally talked about, council originally suggested moving the millage from 97 to 95, settled on 96. Beaufort County's in a reassessment year. There's some additional math and work with Beaufort County to do that. After all that fleshed out, the millage rate for Beaufort County is 102 mills. The request was to move, or the instruction was to remove 3 firefighters, 1 accounting clerk, and 1 recreation athletic planning or athletic program manager from the budget. Add 2 patrol officers and any remaining balance to help with the staffing of the police department as well, and then add back that firefighter position. That change that we have right here, the balance we have right here, basically gives us all the equipment and that third additional police officer in the fourth quarter of the fiscal year. And then again, we added the firefighter position back. We modified the proposed salary increase from the 8.58 that was proposed to 5.5. And then we removed the funding for the proposed Parks, Rec, and Tourism Master Plan.
Mr. Boyle, there was one item that I recall that we also asked for at the last meeting, and that was to go with the reserve from 20% to 21. Didn't we discuss that, council?
We did discuss it, Mr. Mayor, but I'm not sure that we actually made a proposal. I don't think. I thought that I can recall, but I could be wrong, but we did discuss it.
Mr. Mayor, that's why I suggested after it'll be the final year budget amendment for fiscal year '23 or the first budget amendment for fiscal year '24. We'll present the fiscal year '23 year end, and then based on our financial situation, the council can say we can increase for fiscal year '24, which you're voting on now, the budget stabilization amount. So right now it's at 20s, but if, let's say we come in where we think and the council wants to raise it to 21 or 22 or 23%, whatever that number is, we can use those reserve amounts that we expect to be, healthy to change that amount.
So you're suggesting we do it at the first review at the end of the current fiscal year?
Yes, that's correct.
that-
Yes, sir.
Does the council understand that? And
Kind of.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
all right, all right. Okay, that cleared that one right off the bat.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Boyle?
We're just here asking that you approve approve the first reading of the budget, and I'm here to answer any other questions that may exist.
Okay, then we'll start the questioning then with Mr. Mearsman.
Where are we on our reserve at this point? What is the balance of it? With this budget is proposed, what will our reserve?
It is right at $4 million. It's 3,996,000 or whatever it is, something along that. So it's right at $4 million.
Are we
20%?
out of that reserve?
Is that the question, 20%?
Pardon? No, are we pulling money out of the reserve for this year's budget?
There's two different things that are, and that are sometimes spoken of as reserve. We have the budget stabilization, which is our rainy day, emergency fund, those type things. Yes. No, we're not. We're leaving that alone. We're keeping that at 20%. That's our hope. We don't ever have to spend or ever need money. And then we are spending a little bit of fund balance in this year's budget, and I can tell you what that number is.
That's the number that I'm.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. We are spending $208,530 of fund balance.
John, could you say that again? I missed.
208,530. 208,530.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Mr. White?
No, I'd just like to make a side comment, John. Nice job. You've taken a complex situation and numbers and made it simple to understand. I even got it. And thank you. And your staff worked hard on this, and takes 5 minutes for you to do a whole lot of work that they did to put you up here for 5 minutes. So thanks to everybody for a good job. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Mr. Carroll?
You did do a good job, Jeff. If Bo could understand it, then, you have simplified it a lot.
Thank you, my son.
Oh.
He better start his car electronically for the next couple of weeks.
But anyway, because I know we made a lot of these changes, and we did it in 10 minutes, and then you had to go but you've simplified it to where we can understand it, and I think this was I think we all
Absolutely.
commented, what a great budget workshop, and everything, I think, really worked out good, and I think everybody got a piece of the pie. But yet, we still looked out for the taxpayer, and that's what's important. So kudos to you and your department.
Very kind. Thank you.
I will object to one comment by the council. That list that we did took a lot longer than 10 minutes.
Well, I mean,
We were here quite a bit getting all that
final
worked out.
part when we were doing but yeah.
Just ask the staff who had to go sit
Yeah.
through it all. But I don't really have a lot more. We beat this. We rode this horse pretty hard in our workshops, and we this summary, although it's one page, took a lot of angst for everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, and I just want to make that clear to the public who didn't witness those other workshops, because there's a lot of work that have gone into that prior to getting to this point. I do have one question in the summary, just a clarification. On the first bullet point where it says about Beaufort County, now they're going under a reassessment for 2023. The current calendar year, and it says that the recalculated millage to remain revenue neutral, and that would come out to 102 mills for Beaufort County.
No, sir. We do that exercise to get it to revenue neutral, and then I took that number and multiplied that by 96/97 because I had to give them the same proportionate reduction that Jasper County residents received.
Okay, and that's really my question. What we did when we had the Jasper County reassessment, we took net revenue neutral, which was 98.25, and then we reduced it to 97.
That's correct.
So you have to do the same percentage calculation with Beaufort County.
It's just going the other way this year.
Oh, just, yeah, okay. That's all I wanted to clarify, and that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure that's what we were doing. We don't want to show impartiality to our Beaufort County residents as well. That was the only clarification that I needed, thank you, and the 21%, so,
May I add one other point, Mr. Mayor? if it would be
Sure.
okay?
absolutely.
I read today in the paper that I think Beaufort County did a merit raise of about 5, or maybe it was 5.5, which says to me that what we did, going from 8-something down to 5.5, was in line with sort of our region. And I thought that was good validation because we had some discussion about that. And I just wanted to also say, John, that when you're doing budgets, and all of our staff are doing budgets, that's sort of the micro view of where we are, but there's a macro view, and that is that we appreciate all the departments, all the work they're doing, and if you didn't get exactly what you were in line for in this budget process, that's no reflection on your importance or your value. It's simply where we are financially trying to be responsible, and I think it's important to say that because there were some changes, and I want to make sure everybody gets it, that we appreciate you and the work you do, all of you.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, previous experience in government budgeting, I've never had documents complete as this and as easily understandable. Your staff and you and all the staff in the city have done an excellent job in preparing this for us.
Mr. Carroll, you want to?
I've said all along, and then in Mike's evaluations and stuff, I was one of his, I mean, I always try to give him positive, but that's one of his extra things is the budget. I've been through, I can't tell you how many budgets. I've been on both sides of the aisle with budgets and stuff, asking and then having to, and Mike's budgets are some of the easiest to comprehend, and the way it's prepared and all, and we brought Bo along, so it's done good.
You and Davy Crockett set a real precedent for us, Dave.
Oh, we're going to have to separate these two. Is there a referee in the house?
A little more
Okay.
entertainment, right?
No sound. I'll be good.
All right. Okay, now the next phase of this process is to open up to the public. Does anyone from the public like to come forward, ask a question, or make a comment regarding our budget for the next fiscal year? Anyone digitally? Nope. Okay. At that point now, we will ask for a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes. This is first reading of ordinance 2023-6-1A.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve on first reading ordinance 2023-6-1A, approving our annual budget for fiscal year 23 and 24.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second reading will be in 2 weeks. Next, and appropriately, we have, after the discussion moratorium, we have an annexation request. And I would like to, before I read this, emphasize that this annexation request is outside the proposed moratorium zone for Jasper County. So this is the first reading of an ordinance to annex TMS 03700010003 and 004 into the city of Hardeeville, consisting of approximately 471.65 acres of real estate located in Jasper County, not already within the city limits, as well as all adjacent public rights-of-way, railroad rights-of-way, waters, lowlands, and wetlands. And this is first reading of ordinance 2023-6-1B. Mr. Zimbor, please.
Yes, thank you, sir. So this will be four proposed actions. The first action, as the mayor indicated, is the annexation of the property. It is currently in unincorporated Jasper County. The second action would be for the zoning, which would be a plan district. And then the third action would be for the master plan for the property, and the fourth would be in a development agreement between the owner and the city. For way of background, we do have the applicant here. The applicant approached the city, I don't remember when, Jim, probably summer, fall, early fall of last year, indicating that they were looking at purchasing a piece of property. The property is in the southern part of the very, very vast southern part of the city. We did indicate that the council did adopt a growth boundary policy. I think they went through the process of our application to justify or give the reasons why that the council should consider the application for annexation and what the proposed benefits of the annexation would be to the city and the applicant. The applicant did, in executive session, present that plan as well as discussion with the council on the merits of the proposed annexation and what they wanted to do with the property and the reasons why they thought it was in their best interest, excuse me, as well as the city's best interest to consider their proposed development plan and annexation. So they have gone through the process after an extensive review after the last 6 or 7 months, and they have gone through the planning commission process, and Ms. Snowden is here to present those 4 items. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mayor and council. And now that we're all in graduation mode, I feel like everything's graduation right now that we're doing. So hopefully we can graduate on to a first reading here. Port Logistics, it is, as Mr. Seymour mentioned, at the very southern tip of our city area, right where 315 comes into Highway 17. It is on the west side of Highway 17 there. It is made up of 2 parcels. Total parcels are 471.65 acres. 52.7 of that is uplands. So very small portion of the properties. So that leaves 411 plus acres of jurisdictional wetlands and 7.38 acres of non-jurisdictional wetlands. So that's what we're working with on trying to develop this property. Currently zoned rural preservation in Jasper County, and there we'll discuss here the all the different information from the plan development and the IMP, and then following that will be the development agreement information. I don't have as much on that one.
Ms. Snowden, may I interrupt? Could you go back to the previous slide? And I think it's important for later discussion. Would you please explain to the council and to the public what does it mean, jurisdictional wetlands and non-jurisdictional wetlands?
Jurisdictional wetlands are wetlands that are tied to the water flows and the floodways and other things throughout. They're controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers, and we work with Army Corps of Engineers and DHEC on what is available to be filled or not filled, and there's much higher level of permits required for that. Non-jurisdictional, it's a smaller portion. They are not tied to any other wetlands. They've probably developed over time due to either trees dying, different aspects going on, but they're not jurisdictional, meaning that the Army Corps does not have jurisdiction over them.
So for non-jurisdictional wetlands, who does have the right to develop non-jurisdictional wetlands?
The Army Corps still has overview in that, as well as DHEC through South Carolina, and we review all of that through our SRC process, our development permit application with our stormwater standards and that kind of flood standards. So there's still some oversight of it, but like I said, the level of permits, the funding mechanisms, and the ability to fill it, if it's usually a smaller portion, and they're usually able to trade off and fill those a lot easily. That's the simple way to put it.
So I guess what's important to this council and why I'm asking the questions is so that the council understands that non-jurisdictional wetlands, if we approve this, they could be, if going through the process, that the final approval would come through the planning department and the approval board.
Along with DHEC and the Army Corps.
Yes, that's what I meant. After the Army Corps and DHEC approves it, it goes to the site review committee, not council. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. As we mentioned, this is I don't know what is going on with this today, but the lavender color in there, everything's falling apart, indicates the city limits. That is the intersection, the point of that where the 17 marker is on there is where 315 comes into Highway 17. These two parcels are the parcels just south of that. There they go. These two parcels right here are the subject property in question. Current conditions, you can see they're widening the US 17 there, and that is right at the intersection. You can see the traffic light. This upper right picture does show the subject property from 315. I will give Katie and Chris big shout out for getting out there in this difficult area to take pictures and get these photos for us, because if you travel that way, it is slightly interesting to stop there. So this is the overall site plan. We do have some improved exhibits that we'll be showing you, but the gray area shows all of the area that's not going to be developed. And the orange and the stormwater retention pond and the blue are up here in the top corner. That is the area that's going to be developed. Proposed development will be a warehouse facility with limited industrial uses, minimum of a 25-foot PDD buffer. Based on location and function of the site, landscaping, screening, parking, and circulation have been discussed and will have to be discussed for staff review of both applications. We do recommend conditions to ensure adequate screening is provided and parking be reviewed based on specific tenants. So that's why we know that there's, with the Gateway Corridor overlay and some other things, which does not extend this far south, but we want to make sure that the intention is there for the buffering and screening from 17. And that'll be based on the types of uses and what actually comes in there. Industrial warehouses uses vary when it comes to parking needs for large trucks and employees. We've talked about that. We've seen what's going on at Riverport. We want to make sure that this is in keeping with that, and the applicant has understood that. 2-acre access points along US 17, current road widening project and signalization of 17-315 intersection will provide lots of flexibility and opportunity for this project to come in, so that we know the light is going to be there and they can tie into that. That will also be based on a traffic impact analysis that will come with those once we know the specific uses. Access and connectivity to be reviewed through SRC as well as SEDOT. No proposed wetland impacts. Preservation of wetlands will continue to be reviewed throughout the process through SRC staff and engineers. And the open space, they're doing a 20% open space proposed. additional active open space provided as a recreational trail as well. That is not required by the MZDO. That is something that is another give they're giving to, offering up here. The process, we went to Planning Commission. They're making recommendations to City Council. Discussions and as you know, this has been through executive session, so that we've discussed it a lot. And here we are for approval and consideration. Then they will finally go to the site development permit application process and review committee. Staff does recommend approval of this annexation. For the Planning Commission, recommends approval of the PDD and with the following conditions. Any proposed clearing within the property boundary buffers and wetland buffers must be reviewed by the SRC prior to clearing tree removal activities to ensure compliance. We want to make sure all codes are met. Landscaping requirements will meet the requirements of the MZDO and will be based on the master plan in its entirety. So the entire master plan will, even if it's divided up into multiple phases. The maximum building height will be no more than 50 feet without approval of the fire marshal. And finally, the verbiage about unknown information on page 4 of the PDD needs to be deleted. We as Planning Commission did discover that line, and that is one thing that we do recommend be deleted because it is not pertinent to the situation. They did submit everything that they know, so there's no unknown information. As far as for the IMP and the next step, the Planning Commission recommends approval for landscaping requirements will meet the requirements of the MZDO, and once again, based on the master plan in its entirety. All outdoor storage must be screened from view from US 17 and will be reviewed by the SRC during the permitting process. And parking justification will be reviewed by the SRC during that same process. And once again, at the time of zoning permit, in order to ensure adequate parking is provided based on specific tenant needs. We want to make sure that we're not missing any places there where we need to treat the trucks and the employee parkings differently. The applicant has also indicated that they will accept these conditions that have been recommended by the Planning Commission. If City Council is in agreement with these recommendations, the updated documents will be provided prior to second reading. Just make sure that you understand we did discuss from Planning Commission to now and want you to know all the information we have. Do we have some extra? As I turn it over to the applicant and representatives, we do have those updated.
It's just closer in.
Zoomed in. I shouldn't say updated. Zoomed in site plan. This better show you the part that will be developed. And I'm happy to turn it over to Mr. Can't even say your name right now.
Mayor Williams, Mayor Pro Temp White, council members and staff, thanks for having us. We appreciate it. Really good to be here. You know, we're more than happy to answer questions. With me today is, by the way, Jim Sturkanski. I'm the co-managing member of HCP Partners. With me is Herb Chase, my partner, business partner. Mark Tate is our civil engineer, and Sarah Robertson from Burham Foreman, who everybody, I believe, knows. So any questions you'd like to ask us, we'd be more than happy to answer them. I think staff did a great job going through this project. We like the project. We like the way it sits. So any questions you guys might have, we'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, since Mr. Carroll just returned, I'm going to start the questioning with Mr. Mearsman, give Mr. Carroll a chance to get settled again. And Mr. Mearsman, any comments or questions?
The only question that I have is the requirement of the 25-foot buffer. If it's at all possible, I'd like to see it increased to, you know, I know the project, the ground is wet and you have to deal with what you have to deal with. But
personally, I like that additional buffer through there. I think, for the visibility, I think it would improve the look. It gives you more opportunity for landscaping, berming, whatever.
Sure.
That's it.
Look at that.
Mr. White?
Question to you, Steve, did you have 50 feet? What was your thinking if it was 25? Just curious.
50 feet, I think.
50 feet.
Given the location.
Yeah, we actually have 50 feet, Joe. We had actually changed that from the
Okay,
planning.
from the 25. Okay, thank you very much.
Steve, that was the point I was going to make. Go 50, and you've covered it. I don't have any additional questions.
Mr. Carroll?
No, sir, but it seemed like the bone of contention was the buffer, so, and you've changed it, so I had to leave for a few minutes.
Since we talked about buffer, let me follow up with one of my questions on that immediately. Using the first development that went into Riverport, and that was used as an example, was waste management. And unless you look down the lane and you see their sign, you don't really know they're there. They did a nice job keeping the Gateway corridor looking like the Low Country with the trees there and everything. I would really like to see in that 50 feet that same Low Country look with trees along it. Is that something we're planning to do?
I do believe that that's the intent of it, and Mark, there's going to be certainly areas that are wider than that 50 feet. I think that is going to be, from what we can gather, and we can work on that and certainly keep that natural feel that screens and buffers.
I'm not concerned about the width. 50 feet is fine. What I'm concerned about is keeping the trees along Highway 17 so that, you know, I don't see a big warehouse. You know, we did Riverport, which was done long ago before anything got started there. Those first buildings are set back, okay? But now I think it's building number 7. You can see it all clear-cutted, and it doesn't have the same appeal as the entrance to waste management. What I'm asking you is, I'd like to have the front of your property look more like waste management than building number 7 of Riverport. Is that something you can agree to?
We definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And while I'm on the trees, item number 2 on page 10 and on the master plan, I think it was, it talks about, we have the tree ordinance, right? The replacement of 15 trees per acre, correct? And that says, my question is this, are we counting preserved trees?
It's following the tree ordinance. It is following the tree ordinance as the ordinance is written right now.
Okay, so my question is a little more specific than that. Are you counting the preserved trees? Are we replacing 15 trees per acre?
15 trees per acre. Yes, we are counting the preserved trees.
You're counting the preserved trees. Okay.
That's how the ordinance, they have mirrored the ordinance because in some of the previous PDDs, there's been a request to use the existing MZDO. So that is what they have followed.
Right, and we brought this up at the MZDO meeting that I think that's too lenient, but we can't hold them to that. But I just want everybody to understand, I want you to understand that, you know, we want to keep as many trees in the area as we possibly can. And when, you know, you clear out a big swath there, and I think it would help the environment of your project to replace as many trees as you can. But I understand that I cannot hold you to a future MZDO. But I just want to express my desire to replace as much of trees as we possibly can.
And with this property, we actually are in a really good situation with that 50-foot from buffer and some of the adjacent buffers, but also the developable area of this parcel is so much smaller than some of the others. They will have to meet interior lot landscaping requirements that are in the MZDO because it is following that. So there will be internal, trees added to, not necessarily in between the truck bays because that wouldn't make sense, but in the employee parking, foundation plantings where there's none, plant trees along the like roadside, and we'll review those as staff review committee. So I think this property has its unique characteristics that gives us some of those opportunities to achieve what you're talking about.
One of the things that we as a council are responsible for is protecting the future, whether we're here or not. That's one of our major concerns. So my next question, please don't take offense by it, because none of us in this room may be here in 10 years, 20 years. When we first heard this project, it was said we were only going to develop the 52 acres. What guarantees do we have that will only, and that some 20 years down the road, when you're not standing before this council, that it's only 52 acres? And what would somebody have to go through to change
Back
it?
through the process, because this is the only thing that's going to be allowed by ordinance and by our documents and everything is for that 50-something acres that's in.
So it'll be in
would have
our
to come back
ordinance.
through the property. Yes, it will be.
So it'll be in our ordinance that they could only develop the 52.7 acres. And I trust, it's not,
I would
and the 7 point whatever acres that are non-jurisdictional wetlands, that has to go through the process that I asked you about further. But is there an intent to use that 7 acres of non-jurisdictional wetlands
In this portion here.
in this portion?
It is included.
Those are man-made lakes, so they're non-jurisdictional. Oops, sorry.
Yes.
They're-
The area.
Please, yeah, if you would go to the microphone and introduce.
Mark Tate with Tate Design Group. Obviously, there are smaller areas. Which one's the?
Green.
Oh, there's smaller areas underneath the building that.
Green.
Yeah, there's smaller areas approximately right in here and right in there that are non-jurisdictional isolated wetlands, and they're man-made non-jurisdictional wetlands. They're not really considered wetlands. They're more just pond areas that were created at the time the property was in its existing form. So those areas obviously will have to be filled in and dealt with through the permitting process. But there is absolutely no intent to develop any of the wetlands areas. That would require to go through the Corps of Engineers to do mitigation of any wetlands in the area itself. But non-jurisdictional are controlled by DHEC and OCRM as well as staff.
Okay, so I just want the public and council to understand what we're approving.
Mhm.
We're going to be approving the 52.7 acres of uplands and 7.35 or something like that. So a total of 60 acres will be developed in this project.
That's correct.
Is that fair to say? Okay. I'm not objecting to it. I just want it clarified for the council in their deliberations. One of my continual concerns, and I almost know the answer to this, but on page 7, item number 2, it talks about the stormwater requirements, and they are not the Soloco stormwater requirements. That was a question.
They will follow the most current standards in place at the time of site development permit. So right now, we haven't adopted the Soloco requirements, so that is not in there. But when updated MZDO comes through, whatever the most current is, the stormwater requirements will.
So, and I know this has come up again, so forgive me for being repetitive. At what point would any new MZDO requirements, at what point of the development of this project does that become the effective law? When they apply for a permit, when they put a shovel in the ground, when exactly is it?
When their site development permit is reviewed.
When the site permit is reviewed and issued?
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, this is one that bugs this council all the time, and one of my big concerns. Would you please put up the map that shows exactly where the intersection of Speedway and 315, where that light is, and where the egress and ingress points are in relation to that intersection?
But it's not new.
The intersection is right where that 17 is. Right where that 17 is.
Okay, so that's the intersection.
Show him where the,
Where are the ingress and egress points from this development?
Northern ingress egress is approximately right there.
Is that the only one?
That, pardon?
Is that the only one?
No, there's two. The second one would be approximately right there. So far north from the intersection of 315 and the traffic signal. So there's two. There's one here and one here.
What are the distances?
It's over 1,300 feet.
1,300 feet, okay.
From the intersection.
And are both of those entrance points, are they full access? In other words, they're right in, left in, right out? They're both full access?
They've both been reviewed with SCDOT Traffic Division, and the traffic engineers have accepted the proposed site plan as it's shown to you today.
Now, and again, looking at the map, so I have my geography properly, there is a bridge overpass coming out of, is it Freedom Parkway? Is that anywhere near there?
It's way up there.
it's
It's way up
probably,
north?
it's probably up here.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right. We're always concerned about there's a warehouse, so there's gonna be trucks coming in and out, and the visibility, and that intersection, it's much better with the light now, but 315 and 17, it has been a nasty intersection before that light went up. So I think 1,300 feet satisfies my curiosity there. Thank you. Okay, believe it or not, I'm done. At this point, I'd like to, yes, Matt, do you have something further?
You got to be able to.
Sure.
Be voting on the development agreement as well. So obviously, as you all know, we're working through a development agreement which spells out the responsibilities for the developer as well as the city. Just want to hit on a couple of highlights. As you recall, a little while back, we kind of streamlined the DAs, particularly for our industrial development. But we're looking at approximately $360,000 in development fees. And then all roadway improvements will be independent of that. We'd be paid for solely by the developer if there's turning lanes required, et cetera. Probably in conjunction with, as you know, 17 is being widened right along there too. So that'll all play into it. Another highlight is that there's an additional 1.5 upland acres that they're going to donate to the city for a park, which I think could be a really nice feature, kind of a passive, interpretive type, right adjacent to the Savannah Wildlife Refuge. And as an added bonus, there's a billboard on that site that's going to be donated to the city, and once, I think that there's an existing lease, but once that expires, then we can get that billboard to go away as well, which I think staff would agree that's always a good thing when we can limit billboards. So we're happy about that as well. Yeah, so unless you have any questions, but we just want to make sure that you were aware of that since you're voting on the DA as well.
Good, I'll go through and ask council again if they have any questions about the development agreement. John, any questions?
Nelson, but if you remember, you and I had talked about, because this has been in the tube for a long time to
Right.
work. And kind of goes along what we've been discussing today, but one of the good things that we liked about this project was limited amount of traffic, because he had talked about the DOT a while ago, the traffic study from the DOT. And I know he had mentioned that he had some other ideas that he could have done besides this. And we were all delighted with the warehouse concept because, number one, he's limited the amount of land he's using, but also it's not going to be a lot of traffic. And so I think that this is going to go a long way in what we've been talking about today. I wanted to add that because I was gone a while ago, but I have been keeping up with Mike with this project because I think, like I say, that it could have turned into something that could have, we've been trying to avoid all day. We were talking about earlier. So I just wanted to add that too, Matt.
And John, I'm glad you brought that up because if going back to the original conversation, and prior to the new council coming in, there was a conversation because this is outside
Right.
the growth boundaries, and that's what came up. But to John's point, the council, Steve, at the time thought that because of the type of project it is, and it fits in to our total plan for the city, that the warehousing be down at the south end of our city. So there was certain, and I'm going to use a word that John loves, there's synergy in it. See, I learned from Bo. I learned that. So, and that's why we were okay with annexing something
Right.
outside our growth boundaries. And also, in light of our earlier conversation, this is not part of the moratorium area proposed by Jasper County. So there's no issue in annexation this. So I thank you, John, for bringing that up because I forgot to.
The administrator shared an email that they had no concerns.
Good. Yes. Yes, I did see that. Mr. White, do you have any questions about the development agreement or anything else?
No, the one thing I would add is that I think you got some excellent feedback from each of us in terms of things that are important to us, looks that we'd like to see, setbacks. And two things, thanks for listening. I felt from your responses that was compatible with your viewpoint too. And those are the kinds of things that make development much more attractive to the folks that live here and put up with all the things that happen, traffic, et cetera. If there's some attention to aesthetics and making it fit into sort of our view of Hardeeville. So thank you for that. And emphasizing those were very important pieces of feedback. Appreciate you listening.
Mr. Mearsman.
Looking here at the development agreement, I'm very happy with that. From even removing billboards, the Upland Acres donated for a city park. You gentlemen have made a huge investment in property, large amount of property, to use a very small part. And that small part that you're using, you've worked excellent with staff and with the city to make this project work for everyone. And I really hope this lays a pattern out for future development of the cooperation that has been shown with this. And this is what our legacy will be, these types of development. And thank you very much for bringing it to us.
I just have one further question, but I think Matt clarified it, and I forgot to ask it when I was asking about the entrance points. There's going to be turning lanes added to those access points?
Yes.
So there are turning lanes, so, and those turning lanes will be, acceleration lanes and decel lanes or both? What exactly will they be?
Those turn lanes are a combination decel and storage for the vehicles. So they dual purpose in the way that they're designed. So we put the trucks get them off the roadway so that they can turn into the entrance.
Okay, so, there's two of them, and I didn't understand the term storage.
Storage in vehicles, when you put something in the lane, it's called storage from a.
Oh, okay, so,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. My heart stopped there for a minute. That's why.
I tend to speak too much, usually.
No, it stopped because if you ever go at 3 o'clock in the morning, which unfortunately I have on I-95, you'll see storage. And quite a bit.
Vehicle storage.
This is just to make sure that they're not in the roads.
Well, as they're turning off. Good. Thank you. Wow. All right. So now what we have to do here, and this is for the public, as Mr. Zimbor pointed out, there are 4 pieces of business regarding the same, this same issue. So what we have to do is have 4 public hearings and 4 votes. I think the council has, we'll have other opportunities to ask questions, but we tried to ask all our questions with the first ordinance. So the first ordinance is about the annexation. I'd like to invite the public now to ask any questions or make any comments regarding the annexation of this 471 acres. Being no takers, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes. This is first reading of ordinance 2023-6-1B.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that on first reading, we approve ordinance 2023-6-1B.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I'm going to call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Okay, first reading passes on the annexation. The next ordinance refers to the amending of the zoning, and we're changing from rural preservation in unincorporated Jasper County to planned development district within the city limits. This is ordinance 2023-6-1C. I think we started, who we start with? Mr. Carroll? We'll start with Mr. Mearsman. Any further questions?
No
Mr.
questions, Your Honor.
Mr. White?
No questions, Your Honor.
Boy. I don't know how I'm going to live with myself tonight. Mr. Carroll?
No, Your Honor.
Oh, man, nobody's safe in this room. Okay. I have no further, I exhausted all my questions in the first ordinance, so at this point, I'll open it up to the public. Does anyone from the public have any comments or questions regarding the changing of the zoning within this planned development district? Hello, would you please state your name and address for the public record?
Kathleen DeCourcy. I'll spell it for you. DeCourcy. Address is 782 Ticton Hall Road, Ridgeland, South Carolina. I am a Jasper County resident and also part of the committee of the Broad River Task Force. You mentioned earlier the moratorium that Jasper County has put in place, and I believe that you had stated that the apartments on 278, the property, and one other property that you were concerned with was zoned as rural preservation for a reason. Now you're here asking for a parcel to be changed out of rural preservation. During this presentation, I have not heard anything about what that building is going to be used for. Also, they have just cleared all that land to widen 17, so you have disturbed all those wetlands down there. Now you're going to come in and you're going to put a building in there that's going to house trucks. You are affecting the migratory birds in there, all of the animals that lived in that area. And part of our hope is to stop wasting our estuaries and keeping our area clean and helping the migratory animals stay here. So that's just some of the things that I wanted to point out. I did not hear if there was a historical review done on this property yet either. As you know, we have Revolutionary War and Civil War trails right up through that area. And part of our group is reviewing all of the historical sites in Jasper County according to the Revolutionary and Civil War. And I know I've done research on that area, and it's a very prime area for historic artifacts.
As I recall, thank you very much for your comments. And as I recall, and would staff please, I forget what page it was, but when I was reading the master plan, there is a required historical review. Did I read that properly?
That is one of the requirements of a plan development district, that they have to research and look through everything for any archaeological, historical, any of those information, and they have it certified by an expert that there are not on this particular.
So that's already been done or is going to be done?
Already done. Yes.
It's already been done. And and there are no historical,
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Tate speak to that because he's provided that as part of the submittal packet.
I remember reading it, but I didn't mark down the page number on it. So, for the benefit of the woman who asked
We can
this,
certainly
can
provide
we-
that information. I'll get her
okay,
information.
we can clarify, there are no historical
Yes.
sites being disturbed here,
Yes.
right? Okay. I will, and I think it's important that we as a council address the issue of the disturbance of, quote, rural preservation. And one of the reasons that in prior discussions of this, the thing that swayed us, if that's the right word, is the fact that out of 471 acres, only 60 of it is being disturbed. And that by us controlling it, as opposed to some other jurisdiction, we can make sure that that is preserved. And that has been a concern of ours, because as the property we mentioned before, that Project 95, that choice was taken away from us in spite of our objection to it. We do not want that to happen again. And we feel better that it's controlled by us, and because it is part of our comprehensive plan for the southern part of our city, that it made sense. Now, you may not agree with that, and I'm not asking you to do one or the other. I'm just trying to explain what got us to this point. Because I have a great respect. I was there when that presentation was done, and I have great respect not only for the effort that you put into that, but for the objective of what you did. And I applaud you and that entire group for doing what you did.
The report from the preservation specialist is Exhibit I of the Plan Development District. It is on our website.
Okay, could we get a copy of that, and as a courtesy, give this to Mrs. DeCourcy? Did I say that right? Okay.
Yeah, I will get it for you.
Would you please? So if you want to give your, either your email address or whatever, we'll make sure that you get a copy of that. Okay. And thank you again for your comments. Okay, we're still in public comment. Any other public comments regarding, and this is the changing of the zoning in the planned development district? Okay, See no further comments. I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes, and this is ordinance 2023-6-1C.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve on first reading ordinance 2023-6-1C.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I'm going to call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I would say, Ms. DeCoursey, when you get that historical document, there's going to be a second reading before this is passed. If you have any further questions, please, I welcome you to come in 2 weeks and voice them to us, okay?
Thank you.
Next, this portion of this project, this is the master plan for the entire project that we've been talking about, and this is ordinance 2023-6-1D. Mr. Zimbor, any further presentations on this? Mr. Carroll, do you have any further questions?
No, sir.
Mr. White?
No.
Mr. Mearsman?
No, Your Honor.
I'm going to get you for that. Okay, so now, for the public, this is the master plan, and the master plan is a 100-page document that has where the building's going to be laid out and all the stormwater requirements and everything else that is in it. So at this point, I'll open it up to the public. Does the public have any comments or question regarding the master plan? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes to 2023-6-1D.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve on first reading ordinance 2023-6-1D.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. Are there any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the fourth piece of this puzzle is approving the development agreements. And for the public, these are basically, to simplify, these are the development impact fees that are assigned to this project. And this is ordinance 2023-6-1E. Mr. Zimbor, do you have any further presentations on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Mearsman, do you have any further questions?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. White?
No.
Do you have any? Mr. Carroll? Okay. I'll now open it up to the public. This is the development agreement. This is the agreement between the city and the developer regarding the fees attached to this program. Okay, seeing no takers, I'd like a motion to approve or disapprove or make any changes to 2023-6-1E.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that on first reading that we approve ordinance 2023-6-1E.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I will call for a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those four same items will come up on June 15th in 2 weeks, and that will be the second and final reading and vote on those four ordinances. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for coming, and thank you for the public's comments.
Thank you, Mrs. DeCoursey.
Okay, we have already dealt with item F, so we're on to item G. And this is a resolution of the City of Hardeeville, South Carolina City Council authorizing the city manager to proceed with the land acquisition. This is resolution 2023-6-1G. Mr. Zimbor, please.
Yes, sir. Well, First, this is a purchase of two properties on Main Street. I'd want to just acknowledge Councilman Carroll's efforts behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, helping facilitate this purchase. Also, Miss Maines did a wonderful job communicating with the owner and preparing the purchase agreement. So we would add this property to the city's inventory on Main Street, and we can use it for future purposes, office space and other things, parks and parking. So we're recommending the council adopt this resolution, which would allow for the purchase of this property and first right of refusal on the portion, the house portion of 104 Main Street. So we're recommending adoption.
Okay, since Mr. Carroll was instrumental, and I'm going to open up the questioning with Mr. Carroll.
No, sir, I've had some questions, but I think most of them between Matt, I don't know where Matt is, but anyway, Matt answered a lot of them, and then Mike, and the owner of the property, so I think I'm satisfied.
Mr. White.
I would just add, John, thank you for your work and also for our staff and for our legal group. There was a lot of, this wasn't as simple as it appeared, and some good staff work, and John, some good leadership on your part, and thank you, Mike. So I'm glad we did what we've done in that piece of property.
Mr. Mearsman?
I'd like to thank all involved with this. The addition of this piece of property to the city's inventory being adjacent to other city property only moves us forward. And I think it's a great purchase, and it's got one of the most beautiful trees I've ever seen on that.
I would just like to say that this is a great thing that has been a result of our land acquisition fund that we established several years ago. Take advantage of the property sales from the Hardeeville Commerce Park that was developed, and the sale of those properties were able to be built up into a war chest, so to speak. And it's a great example of I think one of the greatest things that management and staff has done in this city since I've been here, and that is taken a property that was completely owned by the city, donated as a matter of fact, developed it into a viable commerce park, and taken the proceeds and were able to reinvest in our city in a positive way. So I think this is one of the finest moments of what the city has accomplished in Mr. Zimbor and his staff. So having said that, we'll move on to public comment. Does anyone from the public have anything to ask or to comment about? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes. This is Resolution 2023-6-1G. John, I think you should make this motion.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-6-1G.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by the public or the council? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, we move on to Mr. Zimbor's manager's report.
Yes, sir. Just two quick things. I think everybody knows how my affinity for dogs, so especially our canines. So I wanted to just acknowledge the donation to the city of approximately $3,000 from various folks in Latitude Margaritaville did fundraising, and then an organization called Iron Dog Canine International. So they provided $3,000 for some vests as well as some med kits for our canines. So that was wonderful. Thank you. I saw your stuff, but it was a great event, and I know the chief is very proud of those dogs as well. So, and then just secondly, the next couple months, we're going to be bringing forward several RFQs that we have issued on various capital projects and things we're working on. So we look forward to presenting those to the council. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go in reverse alphabetical order and start with Mr. White tonight.
I just have a compliment and a comment for tonight, and that was when Mrs. DeCourcy was speaking about her concern and pointing her view. In 40 years in the corporate world, what would happen next is we wouldn't have known about what our staff knew about and did, and that would have stumped us and really set us back. So I want to compliment you for the work you did, having the answer to that question and having it part of the document. It's easy for those things to get left out, and when they do, it brings things to a screeching halt. And so I want to compliment some really good staff work that had the answer to the question, had it part of the document. And when someone comes forward from the community, they may not agree with our decision, but I think they saw it as a good, fair process with good information, and that's the outcome we want, even if we don't always agree. So thank you for some good staff work, and Katie, too. Thank you.
Mr. Mearsman.
First off is the presentation from the Ryan Center. I'm a patient of the chiropractic clinic that is working with them, and doctor has nothing but praise for them. They've really been helpful with him getting the practice off, and they're right. He says he knew great about chiropractic, but he knew little about business, and he's doing very well with that. The other thing is I'd like to acknowledge Janice Brockmeyer from Margaritaville. She organized this cruise that and the residents that participated in the cruise to raise money for the Vests and Iron Dog Canine International. They plan on doing it again next year. We have 2 other fundraising events planned where the money will be raised, and it'll be additional dollars for canine and our dogs and Jasper County's dogs. Chief was there to receive a check. It was a very nice presentation. In fact, they actually have an entertainer from Nashville that is raising money with K9 to benefit not only ours, but all of them. Chief?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Council. Yeah, it was a fun day event. Go out to Margaritaville and received 2 checks, one for $1,500 each. And also, one of my officers received over $1,000 voucher to go to seek medical training to help the dog if it's overheated or gets hurt during an incident. And I also want to let the council know that I'll be sending the other 2 officers along with this other officer. So all 3 of our officers will get trained to take care of these animals in case something seriously happens to them in the line of duty. And again, we can't thank these people enough for their generous check that they gave us to get the bulletproof vest for these dogs, because they are part of the team and they do a great service to the city. So we're very proud to accept that donation, and it has been turned over to finance, and we're seeking to get the bulletproof vests and all hopefully by July. So hopefully we'll get all that done, and I'll get them officers trained and seeking the medical training that's going to help those dogs if they need it. So we're proud of it.
Great.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Carroll.
I just want to echo a little bit what Mr. White said. We do welcome comments from the public, and we appreciate them coming up here. And like the mayor said, sometimes it takes a little courage to come up and do a presentation or whatever, but they are welcome. And I hear sometime some of the citizens in Hardeeville kind of say, well, you know, it doesn't matter what we say, or the council's going to do what they want, or the city doesn't care. That is not true. We do listen to citizen complaints and concerns, But there is one condition on that, and that is if you don't complain and tell us, we don't know. So the only way we're gonna know about issues is if y'all come to us and let us know. So I am reiterating what I usually say. Please let us know if you have a concern. It doesn't matter how small. If I get somebody, Mr. Simbor can vouch for it, I go to him. So, and I think all other council members do too. So, that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, John. And they're great comments. Couple of quick thank yous. First of all, last Thursday, the city hosted at USCB what was known as the Triangle Project, and that deals with the situation of traffic and the potential fixes in the triangle, which goes from 462 and 170 down to 170 and 278, over 278 to Argent Boulevard, and back up Argent Boulevard to 170. I want to thank the cooperation, first of all, of putting it all together with Mr. Davis, who coordinated from our end. I want to thank USCB for letting us use one of their classrooms. And I want to thank Beaufort County, particularly Jared Freilich and Eric Clausen, who gave the presentation to the public. They did a wonderful job, and it was great to see the county and a municipality working in concert together. And we had representatives from Jasper County, Beaufort County, including the chair of Beaufort County Council, Mr. Kemp was there from Jasper County Council, and I didn't acknowledge him earlier because he snuck in after the bell went off. But thank you for coming, Mr. Kemp. And also, for those of you who were not able to see, because there's a lot of important information about what we're trying to do to deal with the traffic issues, the entire presentation is on our website now. You can go in and watch the video. On Memorial Day, I went to the Sun City Veterans Association Memorial Day service. I tried to split my duties. I go to Sun City on Memorial Day, and I go to Margaritaville at Veterans Day. Both communities put on a lovely, great service, and it was very moving to a Memorial Day, which is a remembrance of everyone who died in action over the course of our history. Great job. And then this week has been graduation week. We started Tuesday. I went to the Jasper County School District recognition dinner, and they recognized their retirees. They have some teachers retiring. They recognized the service of their bus drivers, and they also, there were award winners for every school, including Teacher of the Year. It was a great way to acknowledge their staff, and I was happy to be a part of that at our rec center. And that's one of the great things about our rec center is everybody in the community, from the school board to a lot of other organizations, are able to use that facility whereas prior we didn't have the space to do things like that here in the city. Last night, I went to the first high school graduation class of Hardeeville High School in, I think, about 20 years since they joined the two high schools together. So I want to congratulate all the graduates that are graduating this week. Last night was Hardeeville High School, and tonight is Ridgeland High School graduation, and tonight I will be speaking at is Royal Live Oaks Academy in about an hour. I want to congratulate all those graduates. They also was able to speak this morning to the 5th grade at Royal Live Oaks Academy who had their moving up ceremony today. They moved up from elementary school into middle school. And just a little aside, this graduating class tonight, this 12th graders, for those of you, I'm sure some of you will recall, they came to us about 7 years ago and asking for our help to acquire playground equipment. They had no playground equipment at the old school. And those fifth graders who are graduating high school tonight, we arranged for them to perform at Sun City. We charged people to come, and they used the proceeds, and they finally acquired that playground. And when they moved to the new school, they took it with them. So this is a special graduation for me, because that fifth grade was the first class that I was able to interact with at Royal Live Oaks Academy. So congratulations to everyone in all the schools who are graduating this week, and I wish them all the best in their future. Oh, one other note I forgot. Sorry. Last night's valedictorian was Michaela Ferguson, who was part of the Hardeeville Youth Council this week. So I was very proud to see her receive that recognition. Thank you, everybody. That's all for this evening, and I would like a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, Mayor, that we adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You had a motion, Mayor. What happened to your honor?
Well, you've kind of moved down now. The meeting's over.
That's right.
Yourself.